China's orbital lab just leveled up. Forget test flights or routine maintenance. China's space station just became a serious scientific laboratory. In a single week, the Shenzhou 20 crew pulled off over 10 major experiments aboard Tiangong, tackling everything from brain function in zero gravity to how fire behaves without weight. This isn't a warm-up, it is a declaration. China is now fully operational in space science. In this video, we're going beyond headlines to break down what the astronauts actually did, how they did it, and why these discoveries are vital for future missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. This is where research meets real space power. Let's get into it. Rewiring the astronaut body. The human body was never meant to live in space, and the Shenzhou 20 crew is helping us understand exactly why and how we might change that. Their biomedical experiments over the past week aren't just about health, they are about survival and long-term space residency. One of the most critical experiments involved the collection and processing of blood samples in orbit. By analyzing these samples, Chinese scientists aim to track how long-duration exposure to microgravity affects the skeletal system and nervous function. On Earth, gravity constantly stresses our bones and muscles. In orbit, that stress vanishes, leading to accelerated bone density loss, calcium depletion, and changes in neurological performance. These blood analyses provide real-time biological feedback that can help identify early-stage deterioration. What makes this so important is timing. Blood biomarkers can reflect subtle shifts in metabolic, immune, and hormonal pathways even before astronauts feel symptoms. This allows ground teams to develop countermeasures, such as exercise routines or pharmaceutical treatments, tailored to how the body changes in orbit. Equally compelling are the memory slide and fine motor control tests. Using sophisticated tools, the astronauts tested their reaction times, spatial awareness, and muscle precision. In zero gravity, muscles don't engage the same way they do on Earth. Over time, this can affect not just strength, but coordination and cognitive response speed. The fine motor tests track how quickly astronauts can adapt, recover, or potentially struggle with delicate tasks after weeks or months in space. One particularly futuristic experiment was the kinematic motion analysis. Astronauts were tracked as they moved through the space station, not just for curiosity, but for ergonomic mapping. By analyzing how astronauts twist, push, pull, and float through the station, researchers can refine the design of future spacecraft interiors to reduce fatigue, increase mobility efficiency, and minimize accidental injury. This entire suite of experiments pushes us closer to a reality where humans can stay healthier for longer in space. It is no longer enough to just send people to orbit. We need to engineer a biological environment where they can thrive, not just survive. With these studies, China is building that foundation in real time, one cell and one motion at a time. Physics rewritten in zero gravity. Gravity governs everything on Earth, from how we walk to how water boils. But in space, it's a different story altogether, and that's exactly what the Shenzhou 20 crew spent a week exploring. Their physics-focused experiments are rewriting the rules of motion, heat, and materials science. One of the standout activities was the fluids physics experiment involving thermocapillary migration of droplets. In layman's terms, they tested how liquid droplets move when subjected to heat in a microgravity setting. Unlike on Earth, where gravity influences the way fluids settle or evaporate, in orbit the tiniest change in surface tension or temperature can send droplets spinning unpredictably. Why does this matter? Because thermal regulation in spacecraft, especially for electronics, life support systems, and fuel, is entirely dependent on fluid dynamics. Without accurate data, engineers can't design safe or efficient cooling systems for future missions. Just as compelling was their work with the containerless experiment cabinet, where samples are suspended in air or magnetic fields, allowing scientists to study their behavior without any physical contact. This method is revolutionary because containers, especially in space, can contaminate or distort experimental results. By cleaning the chamber, replacing key samples, and ensuring the axis mechanism remained precise, the astronauts enabled high-purity research on materials that could lead to the development of new alloys, superconductors, or glass-like substances with properties impossible to achieve on Earth. They also performed maintenance and part replacement in the combustion experiment cabinet, a critical lab for studying how things burn in space. Fire doesn't behave the same way in orbit. Flames become spherical, chemical reactions slow, and heat disperses differently. Studying combustion in space has massive implications, not only for fire safety aboard spacecraft, but also for creating more efficient propulsion systems or innovative industrial processes. Then there's the often overlooked danger of radiation. The astronauts examined a space radiation biology exposure device to ensure it was properly functioning. This tool exposes biological samples to the harsh radiation present in orbit, collecting data that's crucial for understanding long-term genetic or cellular damage. This work is especially urgent for upcoming deep space missions where Earth's magnetic field offers no protection. These physics experiments aren't just academic, they're foundational. Every droplet, flame, and particle studied aboard Tiangong is bringing us closer to mastering the physical realities of space travel. For China, this is proof that it is not just building a space station, it is running a frontier science lab in orbit, 400 kilometers above Earth. Engineering life in microgravity. Science fiction loves the idea of ecosystems in space, but Shenzhou 20 is turning that into science fact. The most quietly groundbreaking work the crew conducted last week came from their biological and ecosystem-based experiments, focused not just on human survival, but on building the blueprint for autonomous life support systems in space. Among these was the Aquatic Ecosystem Experiment Unit, where astronauts carefully collected and preserved samples from a miniature, self-contained biosystem. This isn't a novelty, it is a key part of understanding how protein homeostasis is regulated in space. That might sound technical, but it's crucial. Protein homeostasis refers to the balance and function of proteins in living organisms. Disruption in this balance, especially in microgravity, can trigger serious problems like bone density loss and cardiovascular dysfunction, two persistent health risks for astronauts. The data gathered from this ecosystem unit offers a rare opportunity to see how biological interactions unfold in space. If aquatic organisms can maintain protein balance in orbit, it means we're one step closer to managing full biological systems, perhaps even farms, off Earth. The samples are expected to be analyzed for gene expression, cellular regulation, and tissue growth patterns, all in relation to stresses caused by microgravity. But the biological exploration didn't stop there. The crew's work contributes directly to closed-loop ecosystem design, the gold standard for deep space travel. In such systems, everything from air and water to waste and food is recycled internally. Observing how living organisms behave in a sealed microgravity environment helps researchers build models for future self-sustaining habitats on the Moon, Mars, or space stations further out. This research is also connected to optimizing space farming. Before we can grow vegetables or algae in orbit on a reliable scale, we need to understand how their supporting ecosystems function. Even a single-celled organism's failure to adapt in microgravity can crash an entire food chain. The Shenzhou 20 data is paving the way for a more holistic, biology-driven approach to space living, where astronauts are not just visitors in orbit, but residents supported by living systems. This is the quiet revolution, moving from survival kits to life ecosystems. These experiments may not make splashy headlines, but they're the keystone for turning temporary space stations into permanent orbital homes. And thanks to the Shenzhou 20 team, we're now closer than ever to making that leap. The bigger picture, what the Shenzhou 20 crew accomplished in just 1 week, is nothing short of extraordinary. These weren't routine maintenance tasks or simple science demos. This was deep, strategic experimentation designed to push the boundaries of what humans can do in space. From decoding how our bodies change in orbit to mastering the chaotic rules of physics without gravity, and even laying the groundwork for future life support ecosystems, this mission wasn't just productive, it was pioneering. Tiangong has officially moved from a construction project to a scientific powerhouse. Every sample collected, every motion tracked, and every drop of fluid tested is a building block in the architecture of our future off-world life. China has signaled to the world that it's not just orbiting, it's innovating. Thanks for watching. If this episode sparked your curiosity, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.